Good evening, councillors and esteemed members of the public. Thank you for turning out this evening. Before we actually formally open the council meeting tonight, it's my sad duty to inform you of the passing of two past Brighton Town councillors and indeed mayors that recently passed away. Past Mayor David Dixon, who was mayor in 95-96, and past Mayor John Partridge, who was mayor in 90 and 92. I believe Councillor Morgan served with David Dixon. Both of them, in fact. It sort of acts as well today being the anniversary of that awful animal thing, wasn't it, 30 years. So may I ask that all council and members of the public stand for a short while to observe a moment of silence and respect. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay. So welcome to our council meeting, 16th of January 2024. Our first item on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Apologies from Councillor Henry.
Thank you. Our second item on the agenda are the minutes. To receive the minutes of the council meeting held on the 12th of December 2024 and confirm as a correct and true record. I hope you all read them. Does any councillor have any points that they'd like to bring up? In that case, may I ask for a proposal or a seconder? Nothing to oppose. All in favour? Thank you, that's passed. Our second item on the agenda, Tony, I think you've left a phone outside, it's ringing. I can hear it ringing.
So I sorted that earlier.
Oh, okay. Our second item on the agenda is the Mayor's announcement, which have been rather brief, really, to be honest. In December, I only attended one item, which was on the 16th of December, which was to draw a community raffle at the Town and Country estate agents, which was quite nice. And following that, I relaxed on a slight holiday with my wife, but it was absolutely wonderful. But on this agenda item itself, there's a rather special announcement that I would like to make with regards to one of our staff members. And that's our town clerk. And for many of you who may or may not know, Tracy is celebrating 25 years of service at Brighton Town Council. And we've got a little something for her. But in that time, Tracy first came here, I understand Tracy first came here as the secretary to John Pitt. Oh, okay, right. I've been given duff information there. Right, who was it?
John Bird.
John Bird, okay. But anyway, 25 years is a quarter of a century, it's a bit of a milestone. Thank you. And we've got this rather nice bouquet for you. Very nice colours. And better than that, you have a Mayor's Award. Well done.
Here's the next 25.
If you're still here. Thank you. members are reminded of the requirement to disclose any interest in relation to items on the agenda when these are discussed. Agenda item number 5 is County Councillor Goggin to receive a report from our Assistant County Councillor, Councillor Goggin. And as far as the questions from councillors and the public are concerned, we'll lump these in at the end of Alan's report as an en masse rather than two different.
Okay, here.
You've got a special chair.
Good evening. Happy New Year to everybody. Right, I'm assuming first of all that most people in the room have got my notes from last month, and I'll just quickly run through the basics, but I think you're looking for other things. So, a quick update. Belfield Avenue, I visited today. They found even greater water issues. So, Mick, you were 100% right.
Thank you.
Once they started working, it was far worse than anybody anticipated. They are a little bit behind, but at the moment they're just plodding on. There's a drain being reported to me at the bottom of the hill coming in. I spoke with Julie, and I'd like to say to Julie that her and I sat there and we talked about reporting it and escalating it to an emergency. There were four different reports of the same drain, but all of them had been put forward as an ordinary report. There was no urgency and no danger shown on the reports. Julie used her contacts, and I'm pleased to say it was fixed yesterday. And that fits in, to be blunt, with what Julie does well, is that, again, she was the one that got the bollards fixed outside the driving. She's got the bollards stuff there after Bruntsea Hall, and she also is the one that's been working with the traffic lights at Chapel Road. So we work well, but it's an absolute credit to her. So at the moment I'm discussing the grants for the stroke unit. So my item 7 is the big issue which has dominated this month. I'm not totally convinced this is the best format to discuss this, but I don't think we've got any others at the moment. I'm more than happy to make an offer, which I will do, is that if another meeting is required to discuss things in greater depth, once more details are known, I'm more than happy to facilitate that. And I've made the same offer to the other 5 parishes. I need to just do a technical thing here with you, Mr. Chairman. I need to mention that in the discussions, I have to declare a personal interest because it's my role that we're talking about. So I need your permission to continue. Are you happy with me?
I think I'm very happy for you to continue.
Dispensation.
You have a dispensation.
Okay. So, my notes here, we've been discussing devolution here in Bruntsea for at least 18 months. We've mentioned Norfolk and Suffolk, and we've had discussions about what goes on in Essex. In Essex, it's been going on just as long. There's a special group of leaders and chief executives which have been meeting through 2024. And that in itself has spawned 2 extra groups, a thing called the North Essex Councils and South Essex Councils. As we're in tendering, I'm delighted to let you know that the tendering group attended all of those. The last meeting in Bruntsea was December the 11th, so we decided to have it early. So the all-important letter from the government didn't get here before that. So we didn't have an opportunity to discuss any specifics. I think it was yourself that mentioned it was coming. You obviously know more than I do. And I think it was yourself that mentioned about the delay of the elections. So the white paper was expected. It was expected much earlier, I'll be blunt. It arrived late on December the 16th from the Minister of Housing, Communities and Local Government, a chap called Jim Mahon. There was a covering letter from Angela Rayner. There was a noticeable change. The previous discussions regarding mayors and legislation were based around what I would call a persuasion option. So the government of the day were going to persuade people it was the right thing to do. It's quite obvious from the white paper that had changed. That had completely changed. It had gone from persuasion to universal implementation. There was no discussion, there was no doubt, and that's what we've been working with. Nothing new. I'm not quite sure how many bits and pieces you've seen, but there is a map of the country. There's a map of the country. I think it's in some of your packs. So devolution, it's that map. I do apologise. It was in the. It's not in my thing, but it was on the briefing note. So this is the country. Apologies, I couldn't. But what you've got here, the dark is where the devolution has already taken place. It's already taken place in those places. And then the lighter ones are where it's going to take place, where they're in the process. So, I mean, we all know about mayors at bits and pieces, the high-profile things such as the London mayor, Manchester, Liverpool, but there's another 8, including Cambridgeshire, that are already doing what we're talking about. And of course, Scotland and Wales have been doing it forever. And then on the map there's a second group of people, and it's these where there's a devolution agreement in place, and that includes Hull, Lincolnshire, Surrey, Devon, Cornwall, Bucks, Lancashire. There's another 8 that are going through at the moment, with the county councils having made a decision. Essex are on there. We are in a bracket called remaining areas. So the remaining areas, it's the rest. So those people there, so it's the whiter ones, they haven't actually said they're going to do devolution. They haven't said they're going to do a mayor, but they are the ones that the white paper was quite clearly aimed at. I didn't have a chance to mention it to you here, but I had my normal parish meeting at St Osyth on the 19th, which was after the and I had a chat to them, I had a good chat to them about what it meant. They were particularly keen because one of the things they've had troubles with is their boundary changes are coming in and they hate it. They hate the thought of being linked in practice. So they were delighted to hear that if the election didn't go ahead, that their boundary change wouldn't change either. I was lucky enough to also go to Thorrington Alresford, and they gave me some extra time there to do it. And then finally I went to, that was on the 8th of January, and then Elmsford and Great Bentley on the 9th, and again they allowed me extra time. And again, it was I was able to gather information and give details. I was asked then to attend a meeting of 10 district councillors from all within my division. And just to remind you, there are 3 in here, there are 2 at Alresford, there are 2 at St Osyth, and there's 1 at Great Bentley. 1 at Great Bentley is unfortunately ill and has resigned, so it was organised by Councillor Barry, and all the ones that could be there were there. They couldn't all make it on the same day, so I understand there was a meeting the day before, and then my meeting, and I was pleased to see that there were 2 councillors as well from Bermondsey, as well as the 10th District Council. Statements included some people in the room were speaking in favour of unitaries. One had a particular good message from the south of the county, and there was another one that said that they didn't mind having a delay of the elections as long as during that delay period some of the questions were asked and answered. During that period, it should have been quite nice and quiet. I may have received many phone calls from residents, visitors and councillors. With all of the meetings, many of the same points were brought up, and they're included in my report. And if you have a look, there's a list of things. They are very common, they're very obvious, and they're very pertinent. They're all things that should be dealt with, aren't dealt with at the moment, but will be dealt with in the on-patent process. Some people mentioned to me it's something new, and just to let you know, exactly the same thing happened in North Yorkshire, Cumbria and Somerset in 2021. There was even locally, while we had COVID, they deferred for an extra year. The council's office is in Colchester. So it's nothing new here. When I explain details, a lot of people are pleased. The vast majority in the people I spoke to were actually in favour of devolution. Money is the key. It's the key to everything. It's absolutely the key to everything. So to give some substance to it, the budget for TDC is 26 million. The budget for Colchester is 22 million. Southend is 252 million. Essex is 2 million, 2,000 million, 2.037 billion. And that just puts into perspective, this is the thing that I've tried to make sure, is how big the issue is. The little bit down here that's tendering is a little sliver. It's not making us to be small, but it's a small sliver compared to these are big numbers. From the consultation I've had, the most significant thing for me has been, and I've mentioned it here, is the size of the amount of money that's being spent on adult social care, children with special needs, and our elderly population. What's behind that is every year you have to produce a budget. I am told that there are 40 councils ready to declare a 114 statement. 114 statement to the government and say we need help because we cannot produce a balanced budget. That was the work that I did beforehand, and I felt I got a good balanced view of what was going on. On the day itself, it was a very packed meeting, and we've got lots of members of the public. There was one opposition motion that was discussed. It was just voted on. There wasn't even enough people speaking in it to call for a name vote. The motion that was put forward was passed with 14 voting against. Interesting to note that the two parties that historically are at each other's throats at these meetings both voted unanimously in favour. And there are a group of, they're called non-aligned individuals, which are ones that are not associated with any party, and 3 of those voted in favour. And later I found out that by the close of play on that day, a whole load of other councils have done the same thing, including East Sussex, Hampshire, Norfolk, Suffolk, West Sussex, Thurrock and South End. We were offered a choice. I've written next to it that no choice. Essex County Council wants to be in this priority programme where they are taking, the numbers are changing, it's the top 10 people in the country to take it forward, to get it all done quickly and firmly. And the situation at Essex is, the choice is quite simple. This is a government-led initiative. I've never seen a white paper that I bothered to read that much that was so adamant that it was going ahead. They actually use words like despite whatever local. So it's a government decision, and I think I've said, and I think you've said it as well, it's going to happen. And you've got two offers. You've got 2 opportunities. You're either in the tent discussing the issues and discussing all the points that you made, that other people made, that other people made, that supposes that other people made, where you're actually engaging and you're forming the mould for what goes forward. My view is still that it's worth our residents' best issues to be in at that stage. I've no doubt and no question about that. Yes, a competition to be in the first round is very fierce. Nobody has all the answers. Nobody has all the questions. But I want, and Essex wants, and that's what we said, and that's what all the people who voted in favour for, wanted to be part of the mould-making process. The government, as I said, has made a decision, and they want it to happen. It's not going to be done by persuasion. It's happening. It's going to happen. This way. It's not an ECC choice. It's not even a TDC choice. I understand you might have a meeting next week where you'll be discussing the same sort of thing, I'm sure. That's why I voted in the way I did. I did it for the same reasons I've always voted. I've looked at all the options and discussions, and I was quite happy that I represented the bulk of the people that I'd spoken to in the months. This is the end of the two-tier system. This is the end of the two-tier system. That's nothing to do with Essex. Essex hasn't made a decision. Essex didn't put forward any of the ideas. Essex didn't bring forward any of the rules. We just had a choice of you're either in the first round or you're in the second round. And in the second round could be even worse, because I think, and it's generally thought, that the first round will be where all the loose money is. That's where all the money will be that is needed to make this thing work. And I think, Mr. Chairman, I think I'll stop there if that's all right. There's other things, but I'm sure they might come out in questions.
Thanks very much, Alan. That's quite eloquent. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask questions now from councillors, and afterwards from members of the public. We'll kick off first of all with Councillor Chapman, who is the lead for you are the leader for the group leader for independence on Independence Council. Jane.
I do have a question, but I do feel I need to explain for the public's sake on why I asked this question. Can I also confirm that none of us had ever made any decision on what we felt was good or bad, because none of us knew the answers? First, I would like to thank Councillor Barry for organising the meetings last week. The first being the district councillors that gave representation for 7 town and parish councils. Each councillor was asked for their thoughts on the white paper that had been issued just before Christmas on devolution and government reform, giving us just 12 working days to make comments on. We are all well aware this has been spoken about for many months, if not years. All of us stated that we were concerned we had not had enough time or enough information to make judgment on the proposals, and the Essex County Council meeting was on Friday. Councillor Barry then arranged a meeting with councillors from Brighton City Town Council on the Tuesday evening. Again, councillors expressed some concerns, even those councillors who believe in unitary councils. On the Wednesday, Councillor Barry invited yourself, Councillor Golding, to a meeting with councillors who were available, where we put forward the concerns that had been raised. I'm not going to go through them, they're on your list, so we asked you to support us, even though we surmised which way you would vote. We asked that you put forward our concerns and questions, and you agreed. You actually had the ideal time when a colleague across the floor said she contacted her constituents and only had one reply. You could have stated that you had met with district and town councillors, probably the only Essex County councillor that had. And although you were supporting the motion, these were the concerns which matched many other comments from other colleagues. It's no good putting residents' concerns in a closed meeting where there's no evidence or public allowed to listen. But you said nothing. We followed due process the correct way by involving you. We could have written in to Essex County or asked the leader of TDC to ask these questions. As for claiming a name vote, most of the chamber had stood. and several Essex County councillors have also claimed a name vote. I have to say some of their behaviour leaves a lot to be desired. We would, as district councillors, have been evicted from the chamber if we'd behaved that way. I and so are my colleagues are disappointed that despite having an in-person meeting that our views are represented. My question is, after giving up many hours of work to represent both councillors and the public, why did you not ask the questions and give our concerns? Also, can I ask that our communication teams issue a statement so our residents know we are asking questions and trying to keep ahead of the situation?
Thanks, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Goggin, would you like to?
I think your suggestion of putting all the questions on the table would
Yeah.
be a good idea.
And then we'll deal with them all as a whole. So thanks, Joe, for that. Does any other councillor wish to put any other question? Councillor Larry.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thanks, Alan, for the report, and thank you, Jane, for putting a very good summary of what went on. And I suppose the question that I've got is about local democracy and the fact that we did what we felt was right in the time that we had to, a very short period of time, to get our views across and to get kind of heard and listened to and hopefully represented to a wider audience within that forum. And I have to agree with Jane, when I watched the meeting, I mean, there were some probably badly behaved councillors that, I know we all have robust debate, but it was pretty grim watching at times. But so we went through what I can only refer to as our democratic process in terms of getting our views across. And I think there was an amendment put to the recommendations at the meeting, which was about the county council elections. I think it was the Liberal Democrat amendment, which said, and I think we all recognise this is a government-driven imperative, and there is no choice. So I'm not saying you should have voted against it or whatever. I think we just want our views represented. But there was a chance and there was a choice to vote to have the elections in May. And that was an amendment that was put. And you obviously voted against that. I think your own, I've referred to it, the briefing paper that was prepared for your meeting, which I have here, states, and I think your leader got up and said they're going to postpone elections for 12 months, which is in theory correct. But in practice, you know, and I know, and everybody else knows, that the elections are not going to be held anymore. We're not going to have another election for county councillors. Your briefing paper says if abolition takes place in 2028, which is the expected timescale for this whole thing to go through, it would mean that members elected in 2021, which is you, will have served a 7-year term. We have been unable to find another example of members serving 7 years without taking part in a public vote. Now you had this paper before that meeting, so you could see that this was unique to Essex. There are 11 other authorities who are applying to do this, and I agree you've got to be in to get your voice heard. They all happen to be Conservative-run councils apart from one, but I'm not going to make a point about that. The 7-year term is unprecedented. Now, in the briefing, the government white paper, it says they wouldn't hold it against any council who decided to have elections. They would still be part of the whole process, and there wouldn't be any detriment. So there was absolutely nothing stopping Essex County Council having elections in May. That would have been an ideal opportunity for you and your colleagues to test public opinion on not only this issue but a number of issues, and carry through a mandatory local election. But you voted not to do that, which I still cannot process that 75 councillors can vote to extend their term of office with no comebacks, no representation through anyone, no consultation with the public, and get away with it. I'm still kind of nonplussed by the whole thing, that it's actually happened, and there aren't people out on the streets about this. But that's my personal view. So I would ask you again to answer. The question is, why didn't you represent our views as given, or perhaps speak up for the people that you had representation from? But why didn't you support that amendment to have the duly constituted local elections in May this year, and give the people of Essex a chance to have a say on this issue?
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Morgan, please.
Well, just a follow-on really. Thank you for the full report. I think it was very interesting, and I do understand all the comments made by the other councillors. I do understand that. Just getting that right, there's 75 councillors, there's 13 against. Does that mean 62 were in favour, voted in favour?
Not quite. Shall I just answer that way? It's a good point, it's a good question. There were 8 people who weren't there.
Okay.
But if you're quite right, 75 less 8 is, and it was 14.
Just to understand that. And just to understand it, have you got any idea when we can expect any further news? Because it's, as the councillors have said, this is a major reorganisation. So have you got any, when can we expect to have another update on news of the government?
I'll put that on the,
Put the list.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Payne.
My questions are really on the going forward bit on this, but following on from what Councillor Morgan has just said, as I understand it, that the districts are going and it's all becoming a unitary, and so the interface from this council, and we're talking about parish councils, town councils, is now into that. And I wondered what input, what connections are being made. Are we going to be consulted about how this relationship works? Where is this relationship? Where is the threshold between what we do now and what we're being expected to do? And I'm sure that hasn't been decided, Alan, actually. So it's a fake question in a sense. But if it is not decided, when do we get the opportunity to get involved in that and say what we can do? Because it sounds to me, and I've spoken to other parish councillors that are more involved than I am in this, it sounds like to us that the responsibilities are going to come down to us, and we're not sure if we've got the resources to cover that. And there's a whole debate about whether the resources are available to do the things that we're going to be expected to do when there's unitaries. And we'd like to be involved in that debate.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Spinney.
Thank you. Sorry, you
No,
just to get a bit of clarity, I think my understanding is the town councils and parish will stay the same. That's what we've been told yesterday. So the difference between devolution and local government reform, my understanding is devolution is Greater Essex with a mayor, but the councils will stay the same. Local government reform is the unitary way, where district councils will then become unitaries 2, 3 or 4. Is that the way you see it?
Thanks very much, Councillor Spinney. Councillor Johnson.
I think maybe some people are overlooking the fact that Alan Goggin is the county councillor, Goggin not Brighton Sea County Council.
Yeah, my problem is not really with the devolution or reorganisation or local government reform. It's the fact it's being rushed and it doesn't have to be. And you'll probably say that this isn't essential that we get into phase one to get the best deal, but you've already said you don't know what that deal is. None of us know what that deal is. But it's certainly true that we do know what the price of brushing it is. It seems to be that we're going to be, the price of brushing it is we don't have an election. So we don't know. We've got no way of choosing who's going to represent this town at one of the most challenging and important periods in its history. This hasn't happened for 50 years, and it's going to affect everyone for generations. Because the sitting leadership, of which you enabled, because you voted for it, thinks only it can deliver it. So my question is, are you happy the elections have been canned for 2025? And if not, why didn't you vote for the amendment?
Thank you, Councillor Court. Does any other councillor have a question? Okay. Does any members of the public, would you like to have Chair of the floor question, please?
Well, I do.
Richard.
If you read the white paper, I don't know how many, I've read it twice, still don't understand it. It does, in the first bit from the Minister for the devolved council, says there's a preferred status for parish council. That's the only thing in the white paper that it says. I talked to Gary Scott, who knows about Westminster because he was Bob Russell's personal secretary, and he knows more about anything about what happens in Westminster than any of us. He was up there with Bob Russell, and he'll tell you. There's talk about extra money. Well, we don't know if that's the case. That's something that really, if you want to know, you could write to the Minister and find out. You could say, what does it mean? You could send a letter from this council and just say, what does this mean? They already know, this government, like all governments, they've got a think tank. I've listened to the talk. They know what the future is. They know what it's going to be. This is politics at the highest level. It's the end of the Conservative dominance of the county shires. And I've been around a long time. Yeah, too long. Yeah, that's very true. But I urge you to read it, because when it comes to the reform, you're talking about what they want to is the planning consent. Like for Brighton Sea, you've got a town plan. These people have volunteered to do it. Is it going to be relevant? That's the first thing. We've got an emergency plan, which Councillor Howard's doing. How's that going to work? Because that links with Essex and tendering. The stores, and Jane will back me up years ago, they used to keep the blankets in Essex. But that will have to be redone. And that's an important thing, because if you do have a major thing, lives are at risk. See, these are the questions that come with reform. At the moment, Alan's quite right, whether you agree with it or not, the government will do it. They had the amendment. That was both sides, the Labour Party were there. I know Harris from Colchester quite well. He's been a good, but he spoke, but that's the problem. The government have got their plan, they've got a huge majority, and they will do it. Whatever you say or I think, but they might do a little bit of backing down, and it's a really big thing. I urge you to read the white paper. And the other thing is the money. We've just had a settlement, and I think I'm right, which was more for the roads than the Conservative, not that much more. But the East of England counties have got the least part of that money for the roads. And over the years, people, and I went to Scotland, I know about devolution, I went up there 20 years, I stayed with nationals, I understand it, but devolution without any money is a real problem, and Alan's quite right, whether you agree the social thing is what you want, but this, we've not seen anything yet. Whether you agree with it or not, they were elected, they've got the majority, and they will decide how it happens. There should be consultation, I agree with you, But to think that you're going to change their point of view when they've got a huge majority, you're kidding yourself. Sorry.
Thank you, Richard. That's quite likely. Does any other member of the public wish to say anything?
Yeah, I was to congratulate Nick Barry over his research saying extend the county councillors extending their term of office for any votes.
Thanks very much. Okay, now, Councillor Gogin. Wow. So I don't know if you've got any ink left in your pen on the birth of this new child that this country is soon going to see. I have a feeling, Alan, that it's going to be fairer to try and create a separate meeting to answer the questions in full. But I might ask if you could just skim over some answers, not in depth, from perhaps on some of the Tenham District Councillors who have given some quite pertinent things. And just perhaps, and then we will arrange another meeting where we can answer in depth. Is that okay with you?
Exactly what I said in my
Okay. Is that okay with the other councillors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, okay. Plenty of questions. You're asking the wrong person. Some of the details that are coming through, some of the details that were released in the white paper, they are at this moment unanswerable. I'd like to say I could tell you this, I could tell you. They can't tell. If this council and these individuals want to make a point, I'm strongly urging them to write to the government. And if you feel that's what you want to do, then do that. Because at this moment in time, all Essex County Council has done, on the 10th of January, they asked to be included in the first round. We don't make the decision. We can try and influence the decision, but we're doing what the rest of the country is doing at the same time. We're all in this. We're all quite tough people, and I've got to be blunt. The personal criticism that's coming my way is uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. I know other people have had criticisms before, and they're equally as uncomfortable. I'll do my best to answer them. Jane, you made a good point about the working days. Well, that was the same amount of time we had. Essex County Council didn't have any more notice. We knew, I think I said before here, we knew the white paper was coming, it was going to be November. We got it on, we've been very, very, very sanguine about it all. We looked at it and said if we were going to ever issue a statement that was a bit controversial, why don't you do it on the last day of Parliament, just before Christmas, just before New Year,
Summer holidays.
bank holidays, people off sick, people book their holidays to go away with their family, can't make meetings. I couldn't possibly comment on that. But so Jane, I agree with you 100%. We all expected the white paper to come. What we didn't expect was the deadline date of the 10th of January. We didn't expect that. It was all so, and Essex County Council did what other people could have done or did do. We did. Technically, this has come out a couple of times. The system as it is, technically speaking, the leader of the council could have answered the government white paper. Could have just said yes. That's what it is. It's the same as here. There are certain devolved powers, certain things you can do, but the councillor, the leader, said no, that wasn't what he wanted to do. So the first thing he organised was a legal. So if you have a look at the briefing, it was from the legal department. It wasn't from a political department. It was from the legal department. And the legal department paperwork, quite rightly, Mick, as you said, it has to include everything. That's why it's so big and so documented. And quite rightly, as you say, it has to say, well, we're applying for a 1-year deferment, but it could be 2, or it could be 3. So they have to say that. The general belief is that it won't be that, But the key issue is whether you're in the first round. Because if you're in the first round, that's where you'll get the opportunity to put all the points that I'm saying are all good points. So, so Jane, I agree with you. Short term, very poor. Don't have a go at me about that, please. It wasn't actually mine. Why did I not ask a question? Okay, you might ask that question. There were 40 other councillors who didn't ask a question. We were told that if you've got a question, put it. If you've got a question, put it. But please don't make the same question the one that was the one that went before the one that went before that. And on the order paper, the other party's amendment to not go ahead I made a note as I went through of every speaker, and every one of your points, all of your good points that you made, were covered. So all I would have been doing is repeat, and so would the other 39 councillors who didn't speak. I just have a little point to try and stand up for myself. The meeting we had in here was good. It was a private meeting. It wasn't a meeting from Bromsey Town Council. It was a private meeting, and it was a private meeting from some good people. And I wrote back and told you that the people in there I have huge respect for. But it was a private meeting. It wasn't this meeting. Here I am accountable. Here I am in front of everybody. I've even got the public behind. Questions. Anything I say is going to be recorded. You, Mick, you actually said we're not recording this meeting. I think you sort of shook a phone at me as if. So it was a private meeting, and I took on board at that private meeting all your points. And at one stage or another, when I get the opportunity, every single one of those points will be made. And if not by me, by somebody else. But as Mike has said, I do represent Brightsea. It's a great privilege and a great honour, but I also represent St Osyth, Point Clear, Alresford, Dorrington, Great Bentley. And they have a view. They have a view too, and it's different to yours for some of the people that I spoke to. So for me to have made a speech at that, I would have had to have said, I've spoken to a group of interested, any tendering district council that isn't interested in this development is crazy or a liar. That they're interested and they have a good point, but I've also spoken to other people that have a different view and a different assumption. So that was part of my logic. I was the one that called for a name vote. I was delighted to do that because that I thought was exactly the fair thing to do, and that way every single councillor puts his hand or her hand over where they were and what they wanted. The most contentious thing is the deferral of 1 year. There's absolutely no doubt about that. There is also a technical problem, which I took into account. Those of you who are new to the council may not use the word, may not know the word PERDA. It's not called PERDA anymore because it's considered to be derogatory. It's now called pre-election something or other. Yeah, pre-election. Okay. The election would have been for May the 1st. The pre-election period was 6 weeks. So that meant if the election was in May, the previous month, which is April, and half of the previous month, which is March, any debate on the subject would not be allowed. So what that meant is, if we were to go ahead with the elections, which I've been planning with, seen some of my election leaflets that are already out. Would meant that the discussion that I want to have with the first round people on the argument, the point I had a piece of January and a piece of February and a little bit of March. So I've got 6 to 8 weeks. So that people talk about it being undemocratic. There is an element, and I completely understand why someone would say that. What we have to understand is democracy took place last year when the Labour government got in with a stonkingly great big majority. And nobody can take that away from them. Nobody can take that. That's democracy at its finest. That's what it is. One government turfed out, a new one brought in, a huge majority. And as everybody will know, what that means is they can do whatever they really want. They can withstand issues within their own party. They can withstand issues within the public because they're going to do it. I won't go into what, but that's a reality of it. So many criticisms of the government. More than happy to have a meeting. I'm disappointed that you felt I would love. I would love if someone had seen in the other speeches I've given at Chelmsford and said to me, God, that was a pile of poo. Or you know what, that was quite good. There are people with huge agendas. Huge agendas. I just ask everybody to take that into account.
Thanks very much, Alan. So I think with all council's approval, we'll set up another meeting and invite the public as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So that we can have a robust debate.
Oh, sorry. I didn't answer. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's a couple as well.
Yeah, okay. Just a moment. What's the next step? The 10th of January was the deadline. We are told that the answer should be back from the government for who the selected 10 are, probably the first week in February.
Okay.
But these are the same people that told us that we were going to get the white paper in October and November and in December. So, and then the ambition is that for May next year, talking about democracy, I believe that we, including you and everybody else, will be voting for the mayor.
Of Greater Essex.
Sorry?
Of Greater Essex.
Greater Essex, yeah. There will be one mayor to cover Greater Essex. It's called it's not a superior body.
Strategic Combined Authority.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. So, so that would be the first. That will take an effort to get that done. But we're right behind that. We're right behind the system.
I think you had one for Councillor Moore.
No, you did.
Just carry on.
What involvement are we going to have to be?
I'll be blunt. I don't actually know.
I think that would probably turn up.
Well, can we just pass on to you to
Absolutely.
make that point?
Absolutely. If you have a look at my list of things, it says I'm more concerned about something as important, and it's a bit of flag hat waving here. There are advantages in unitary. One of the things that's going to take place, and take this room as a good example, in this room we've got 1, 2, 3 people. We've got one with an aspiration. We've got one that's done it in the past. And these are people that go the extra mile from the town council and have gone to the next level. Well, if you put all of those from Tendring and Essex in the room and go to this thing that I think is going to be called North Essex, 70 people will get selected from 190 available. I'm really concerned about the level of quality of people that will be disappear. There'll be people that naturally come to the end of their period of time, getting retired and are doing it. That's a natural thing. But there's some bloody good people out there that will not have a role. And I think we need to make sure that they're encompassed somewhere. And I've written down here, I've written down about making the roles. I believe that you will have more power. Sorry, you being Brightsea Town Council.
Okay, thanks very much, Alan. That's the best 45 minutes almost. So we've invested that good time into this, and I think we are in the early stages of this birth of what will be the new thing.
Okay.
What I would urge council to do now is, whilst it's fresh in your mind, jot down your questions so that we can collate them all, or send them straight to Alan. You don't need to send them to Tracy. So we can send them to Alan. Give them a little bit of time, I think, because there are other areas you may not know other people that might give you other information. For instance.
Well, as Mick has said, thank you very much for saying it. I represent the others as well, and I'm off to. I've had a brief chats with Great Bentley, Elmstead Market, Alsford, and Torrington there, and they didn't give me 45 minutes.
There we are.
I was impressed about
Well,
that.
I think it's an investment in Brightsea Town Council at that time. And I think if we can then create a format whereby we're all sitting down and you've been given those questions ahead of the time, and perhaps we do write to the government and just ask the questions as well. Whether we get an answer or not, I don't know. But it's for us, Brightsea Town Council, because Tenbury District Council, they will be doing their own thing, one would hope, one would assume.
And so far, Tenbury District Council have been involved in this other group. So the group leaders, now, my suspicion is that the group leader for tendering spoke on the 10th, Mark, and he spoke against. Rather sadly for him, it appears that he's in the minority of this group leaders group, and you've got this massive issue about democracy and one person's view and another person's view, and one person's democracy is another person's kick up the bum.
Great. Thanks very much, Alan. You're probably going to be late for a St. Owen.
No, I told them that there might be some time.
Please,
please come back as a group.
Yeah. I think that's correct. Come back as a group with some pertinent questions that we can feed on.
Yeah.
In a frenzy.
In a friendly-ish.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you for your time, by the way.
Thank you. Please give our best to St. Joseph. Thank you, Council.
So that, guys.
Does anybody need a comfort break?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. That was definitely the longest yet. Thank you very much. Okay. Right. Item number 6 on our agenda is to introduce the chairman for Tenbury District Councillor, Councillor Dan Casey. Unfortunately, he doesn't seem to be here. He did ask to come and meet us, and he's going around the whole of the district meeting all town and parish councils, but he's not here. So, apologies. Surprise. Okay, so item number 7, please, is the update from district councillors, to receive an update from Tenbury district councillors. Councillor Barry, may I kick off with you?
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add, thank you. Councillor Chapman, may I
Just to say that I attended the Tenbury Star Awards this afternoon, and did some of the presentations. I was very pleased to see that the group that I nominated were runners up. It's a human resources and career track. We do all our apprenticeships. Then we declare, we've got a biscuit. Notice I've declared it all. Take the rules on. No, very good afternoon.
Thanks very much. Councillor Chapman, is that you? Yeah. Councillor Steady, would you like to say something about your brief report?
I'll just point out the highlights. You notice on the 7th of December we've had slightly changed portfolio performance and project